to move this a little here? أعوذ بالله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We seek the protection of God from shaitan who's been expelled from God's kingdom of special mercy. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We turn to God and ask for His help and guidance for three reasons. We believe He is Allah, the absolute perfect being, and therefore if we sit here and we hope to achieve some sort of perfection, some goodness, some guidance, our first attention should be toward Him, because He is the only source of all perfection. And we also turn to Him because we believe He is Rahman. Each one of us here, moment by moment, receives the rahmah and the mercy and the grace from Allah, whereby we come to life, whereby we survive, and we have all the necessities of life, and whereby we even thrive and grow and develop. And thirdly, we should turn to Him because we accept Him to be Rahim. His mercy is not limited to the bare necessities. His mercy is continuous and promising to be all the more. There is no limit of mercy on His side. It's unlimited. The question is, to what extent can we increase our capacity to take in more? So the more we understand Him, and the more we submit to Him, and the more we commit ourselves to live a life according to His laws, the more we increase our capacity to take in more mercy from Him. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. And we send our salutations and greetings on the Holy Prophet of Islam. We respect him, we salute him, we express our love and loyalty to the Prophet because we believe he is the most perfect man. Why? For two main reasons. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu. We believe as a servant of God, he had the maximum slavehood and servanthood to God. But before you can achieve slavehood and servanthood to God, you also have to know who God is. You have to know what God's perfect qualities are. You have to know how God moment by moment is touching your life, affecting your life, ruling your life, and controlling everything and driving the universe slowly towards its purpose of creation. The universe is not here by chance. So the Prophet's understanding was the maximum, and therefore his submission was also the maximum, and therefore he was the highest. And we send our salutations and greetings on his holy progeny, who were the next best in perfection after him, and especially so on the third holy Imam, whose movement we are commemorating in these days. I was told that it will be a gathering for the youth, but I guess it's an open gathering. My salams and my greetings to the elders and to my young brothers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We had a previous gathering with the youths before Muharram, and the response and the questions that came in from the organizers, the IUVC, from the youths were so many. I felt guilty that I took too much time talking. So this time I thought, let me reduce my time for talk and give more time for discussion and questions and answers to the youths. The reason I chose this particular topic was because it's an approach towards Karbala. It's the same details we've been hearing all the time, but from a different perspective. You give this event to different experts, they will analyze it from their own field of expertise. So you give it to the military experts, they will look at it from their perspective. If you look at the event of Karbala from the perspective of military planning, there are several points that can be picked up. Number one, this reality and fact was very clear for everyone, that there will be a confrontation, and that in this confrontation the Bani Umayyah are prepared to use full force and they are ready to kill. The question is, should Imam Hussein surrender or should he resist? And if he resists, what will be the outcome? These are the fundamental factors which enable the Imam then to decide how to resist and how to oppose. Notice his first military tactic. When he is summoned suddenly in the night, not during the daytime, in Medina to the governor's mansion, Walid bin Utbah, the military arrangement Imam does is he takes a group of bodyguards with him and he informs them that in case if there is any development of military confrontation, then I shall summon you and you come in for protection. Normally, when you are summoned to the palace or to the presidential residence, you don't go with bodyguards unless you know the background of these people. Walid bin Utbah, he was a pacifist governor of the Bani Umayyah. He was not very confrontational. However, he had an advisor, Marwan bin Hakam. Oh, he was a terrorist, if we can use that label for him. In consultation on issues which were important, he would call Marwan. On this occasion, a critical moment, he invited and solicited the advice of Marwan. Look at the advice Marwan gives. This letter has come from Yazid. Immediately you must summon all these parties involved. Abdullah bin Abbas, Abdullah bin Zubair, Abu Abdullah, the third holy Imam. They were all to be summoned. They were to be imposed with bay'ah. Marwan advises immediately summon them right now. Number two, don't give them any chance to defend, to protect, to even argue back. Just present the proposal on the table. You are supposed to make allegiance to Yazid. Three, there is no choice. It's either yes or your head will be beheaded. Number four, don't even wait till the news of the death of the Muawiyah arrives and spreads, and then you get different groups of people deciding how to oppose and go to different parts of the Muslim empire. Marwan was smart. He knew the degree of opposition that was there in Medina and how people would then take opportunity after Muawiyah. Muawiyah ruled with an iron hand. He suppressed and he oppressed and he bought people. Those he could buy their silence with money, he did that. Those who were strong enough to oppose, he suppressed them by military force. That's how Muawiyah ruled. And Marwan was of the same thinking, and hence this advice. And Imam a.s. knew that beforehand, and therefore he went prepared. Number one. Number two, Imam a.s. he leaves Medina and proceeds towards Mecca. Question: what is the military perspective on this? Why did he not decide to stay in Medina and express his opposition? If you analyze the situation in Medina, it seems not to be an appropriate place for launching an act of resistance and opposition. True, it was the place where there were many companions of the Prophet and the Ansar, but the Ansar were people who had inclination towards the Ahlul Bayt, but the degree of inclination was not high enough for them to be ready to support till death. Observe the situation which took place in Saqifa. Despite all that decisions that were made, and despite them knowing who is righteous, they did not do anything to support the Ahlul Bayt. Number two. So Medina had this problem. Secondly, Medina, you must remember, the people were somehow conditioned, and they began to accept that yes, if the ruling party wanted the seerah of the Shaykhain of the first and the second Khalifa to be practiced, we accept that. Number two. Medina was also not appropriate because it had shown in the past, in the time of Yazid, after the massacre of Karbala, in the year 63 AH, when there was some opposition in Medina. One of the companions of the Prophet traveled to Sham. He saw the palace of Yazid. He fully saw how Yazid is openly breaking the laws of God, openly drinking, openly engaging in illicit sexual behavior, openly flouting the laws of God. When he came back to Medina, he spread this message that we cannot any longer accept to live under such a Khalifa. Otherwise, we are not safe from the punishment of God. And there was an uprising, which was quashed by the military, which Yazid, the army which Yazid sent there. And there was massacre, widespread massacre. It came to be known as the event of Harra. If you go to Baqi', there are places where the martyrs of Harra are buried. Medina also saw an uprising in 149 AH by one of the sons of the Imams, Muhammad bin Abdullah, who was known as the Nafs Zakiyya. Support was not complete, they were quashed. There was another uprising in 163 AH by one of the other descendants of the Imams by the name of Hussein bin Ali, similar to that of the third holy Imam, and he became to be known as the Shaheed of Fakh. Fakh is a place which is just outside Mecca. Again, inadequate support from the people of Medina. So the people of Medina apparently were not yet at that level where they could show full support for an uprising. Number three, the fact that Medina had this ruler, Walid bin Utbah, who as a representative of the Bani Umayyah obviously had penetrated the people, and therefore he had pacified them. And number four, Medina had the problem that in addition to Walid bin Utbah, there were people like Marwan bin Hakam, staunch, adamant, stubborn in their hatred and opposition to the Ahlul Bayt. And Marwan was of a terrorist thinking mind, one who had to use force anytime necessary. No, even when not necessary. Extra exaggerated use of force. And therefore Marwan kept a huge small army of his own in Medina. And number five, besides the number of people staying in Medina, compared to the number staying, let's say, in the other cities in the Islamic world at that time was less. These are some of the reasons which may have factored in the mind of Imam when he planned that if I am to raise an opposition to Bani Umayyah, Medina should not be my base. So then he proceeds to Mecca. Reason very simple. Mecca was the center where on an annual basis all the Muslims gathered. Two things he would enjoy there. Number one, protection. Because we Muslims are educated to consider Mecca as a holy sanctuary. It's a precinct where there is peace and there is protection. The Sharia says you are not allowed to enter Mecca unless you're in the state of Ihram. Ihram means I'm making haram on me. Anything which will attract me towards sex, for example, I can't touch, I can't look, I can't kiss, I can't go on with all those relationships with my even legal spouse in the state of Ihram. In the state of Ihram, I have to remove all those reminders of my pride and my selfishness. In the state of Ihram, I have to control my aggression. I'm not supposed to harm plants. I'm not supposed to harm animals. I'm not supposed to harm the tiniest insects. I'm not supposed to harm other human beings. Even if a criminal were to walk into the precinct of Mecca, a criminal who's committed a crime for which the court of law has passed a sentence, the Sharia court, that he has to be sentenced or even executed, once inside the haram, you're not allowed to arrest him. It's that sacred. No, the riwayah even teach us, the Ahlul Bayt, that you're not only allowed to physically arrest, you're not even allowed to emotionally hurt the feelings of somebody else. There's a riwayah which says that a person gave a loan to someone, and then the person disappeared. They never met. And on one occasion, in the time of Hajj, he saw him around the Kaaba, and then he wanted to approach him to ask back for his money. So he asks the sixth holy Imam, Afa ataqadahu, can I make my taqadha and my demand for my loan? And Imam says, no, la tusallim alayhi wa la turawwi'hu. Don't hurt his feelings, don't even greet him. Because the moment you greet him, he will remember that yes, he is obliged to you. That's how sacred and peaceful a place that is. So the choice of Mecca at this time was very clear for Imam. Number one, protection. Number two, propagation. Because the number of people coming there will be so large, he will then be able to educate them and explain to them what are the conditions of the Muslim Ummah right now, how different is Yazid from Muawiyah, how we could not tolerate Muawiyah, but Muawiyah was smart enough to wear a mask where he hid his true identity. He showed himself to be a Muslim successfully. But Yazid has even removed that mask, and therefore we cannot tolerate his presence. Number three, so Medina could not be a base, and Imam planned the visit. He came to Mecca. Once in Mecca, just before the beginning of Hajj, Imam departs. There is a question and debate whether the Imam did perform the Umrah of Tamattu or was it just Umrah Mufrada. It's a basic masala of fiqh that it's not necessary that the Imam should have performed Umrah Tamattu when he went to Mecca, and therefore he was not bound and obliged to continue with Hajj Tamattu. You have an option. Once you go to Mecca and you're planning to stay for long there for several months, you're allowed to do one Umrah every month. So if Imam proceeded there in the month of Rajab, it's not necessary that he made the niyyah of Umrah Tamattu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's not necessary that he would have made the niyyah of Hajj Tamattu and Umrah Tamattu. Remember, he arrived in Rajab. Usually the journey takes about a week. The Prophet left Medina from Masjid al-Shajara towards 26th, 27th of Zil Qa'dah. Around the 3rd of Zil Hajj, he arrived in Mecca. Likewise, Imam Hussein alayhi salam left on the 26th, 27th of Rajab. On about 3rd Sha'ban, he arrived in Mecca. Definitely he must have performed Umrah Mufrada with that niyyah entered. He would have come out again in the month of Sha'ban or Ramadan and entered again with the niyyah of Umrah. He could have come out again in the month of Shawwal. Now he had the option of re-entering Mecca either with the niyyah of Umrah Mufrada or Umrah Tamattu. But in all likelihood, he did come back with the niyyah of Umrah Mufrada. This is what the subsequent Imams have reported to us. If you are not there with the niyyah of Umrah Tamattu, therefore you're not planning to do Hajj, you're not bound and obliged to stay. On the 8th, therefore proceed to Mina or to Arafah. So on the 8th, he leaves Mecca. What is the military tactic here? In the conversations that he had with Abdullah bin Abbas and with Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, we come to learn that Imam was already informed, and he began to receive information that yes, there is a plan to assassinate him. Look at the conversation, for example, he has with Abdullah bin Zubayr. Abdullah bin Zubayr is the son of Asma, who was married to the daughter of Abu Bakr, the sister of Aisha. So he was the nephew of Aisha. Abdullah bin Zubayr, the father was Zubayr bin Awam, a prominent Sahabi. Abdullah bin Zubayr suggests to Imam, then don't leave Mecca. Stay here and continue for Hajj. let us form a base of resistance here. And Imam says, you know, I've heard from my grandfather that in Mecca there will be an animal which will be slaughtered. Inna laha kabshan bihi tustahallu hurmatuha. The hurma and the sanctity of Mecca shall be broken by the shedding of the blood of one animal which will be slaughtered. A metaphorical reference, there will be someone who will be killed there. In actual terms, it turned out to be Abdullah ibn Zubayr himself later on. And I don't want to be that slaughtered animal here. Definitely was afraid of assassination there. Amr bin Sa'id Ashdaq was the assassin who was sent with the posse to go and kill Imam. Incidentally, notice I said the Imam got information. This is another military tactic. The use of informants, the use of spies. Have you ever wondered why the half-brother of Imam alayhi salam, Muhammad Hanafiya, never participated in Karbala? Ibn Hanafiya, his mother was Khawla bint Ja'far bin Qais. They came from the Hanafiya family, tribe. Ibn Hanafiya was a strong commander. In the battle of Jamal, Imam Ali alayhi salam gave him he was the standard bearer. And one of the most important soldiers in any army is the standard bearer in the old strategies of military confrontation. He was a brave man, yet he didn't come to Karbala. No, in fact, he advised Imam not to have an uprising against Bani Umayyah. He was not a coward. He was very courageous. But if he did not participate in Karbala, there must have been a very good reason. And Imam does not condemn him. There is no record of a condemnation. Most probably he was bodily now disabled or defective. There's no clear record. There's some indication that maybe he may have been turning blind, maybe. Or rather or he had some other disability. Ibn Hanafiya was instructed by the Imam to remain behind in Medina. أَن تَكُونَ لِي عَيْنًا لَا عَلَيْكَ أَن تَكُونَ لِي عَيْنًا. You become my eyes in Medina. I'm leaving, but you inform me everything of the new developments that are occurring here. Have your spies all over. Yet another military tactic. Not only have spies in Medina, but make sure you have a network of informants. He sent messengers. He used to intercept travelers who were traveling. So once he left Mecca and is now proceeding towards Kufa, incidentally, he selected the destination to be Kufa and not any other place in the Muslim world at that time. Look at the Muslim world at that time. The main centers, Medina, we said that could not be a base. Mecca, he was already under threat. Sham, out of the question. That leaves Yemen and Kufa and Basra. These are the main centers. Why did he not choose to go to Yemen? Why did he decide to proceed towards Kufa? Yemen, first of all, geographically it was quite far from the main body of the Muslim world. Secondly, true, there were followers of the Ahlul Bayt, but the numbers were not as big. Thirdly, true, those few numbers that were there, their inclination was not strong enough. And the evidence for that is they never sent letters of invitation to Imam to come over like the people of Kufa and Basra did. And the evidence for that is when there was use of force by Muawiyah, who sent his vicious military commander Busr bin Artat, and Imam Ali alayhi salam had sent Ubaidullah bin Abbas. In that confrontation, the people of Yemen failed to support strongly enough the commander sent by Imam Ali. And there was a massacre committed by Busr bin Artat. And fourthly, the people of Yemen had a negative stigma attached to them. You know, those people who oppose the Muslim government in Medina, the so-called Murtad, the apostates, they came from Yemen. Easily Bani Umayyah could use their propaganda machinery to say, there you are, there's another movement of Murtad and apostates who are making an uprising against Bani Umayyah. So these could be some of the possible reasons why the Imam may not have selected Yemen as his destination. Rather, he took Kufa. Kufa was already the center where Imam Ali had established his government. Kufa was the place where already there were staunch supporters of Imam Ali. Kufa was already the place where they expressed their willingness to help Imam alayhi salam. Notice all those tens of thousands of letters. Kufa was also the place where tens of thousands were arrested and incarcerated. They were in jails at the time when Karbala was taking place. And it was the other people who managed to come out, express. The whole sentiment in Kufa is now to support Imam Hussein. And then you have those people who are neutral, who see that everything is going to change now, and Imam Hussein is going to come and rule over Kufa, and will be left out, so they also start sending letters. And then when the tide changed, and the circumstances changed, they changed sides, and they came to Karbala against Imam. But definitely Kufa was going to be a stronghold, a potential stronghold for the support of Imam Hussein. So it's not surprising why Imam Hussein chose to proceed towards Kufa and nowhere else. Given the circumstances, it was one of the best places for basing his resistance. On the way, at different places, he meets travelers who come from Kufa. He sends messengers to Kufa. Abdullah bin Yaqtur, a companion of the Prophet, but supporting Imam, he was sent as a messenger to go and help Muslim bin Aqil. Qais bin Musahar Saydawi, another messenger sent by Imam to Kufa. The letters used to come back from Kufa. Travelers who came out from Kufa, like Farazdaq, he would intercept him, he would talk with him, find out what is the situation. And Farazdaq would say, you know, the hearts of the people of Kufa are with you, but their hands are on their swords and they're ready to fight against you. They've been bought over, they've been silenced, they've been terrorized. Or he met another traveler who came from Kufa, Bishr bin Ghalib. What is the situation in Kufa? Same report. People of Kufa are for you as far as their hearts and inclinations are concerned, but they're ready, or they have been forced to fight against you. Yet another military tactic that the Imam used was, once the interception took place and they ended up in Karbala, the selection of the spot and the site where Imam would camp, he makes the decision. Notice, for example, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Battle of Uhud. You know, one of the secrets of success in a battle is to select a site and a position where you can get protection from the natural geography of the place. The Battle of Uhud, the Prophet selected that site because it gave him protection from the back, the mountain range of Uhud. And then on the left side, there was the hillock where he placed his archers. And then on the front side was Medina. There was just a small area from which the enemy could possibly confront him. You select the site and you force the enemy to come in from the point where you know you can easily win over him. Same thing Imam Hussein did in Karbala. A geographical, he studied the place and found out where the area allowed him natural geographical protection, and he camped there. Militarily, he shaped his camps in such a way that they were horseshoe shaped, in such a way that the whole direction would be towards facing the enemy. Behind himself, he made sure the enemy would not be able to attack. There were the rivers on the two sides. He built a moat, khandaq, which was filled with fire. So the enemy could not attack from behind. The only one place they could attack was right from the front. From one side, there was a possibility of attack, and Umar ibn Sa'ad did give that command. And finally, when the camps were built and they were all intertwined, so there was no gap from between where the enemy could penetrate from any side. And on one occasion, Umar ibn Sa'ad does give the command, and some of these camps are attacked, but then they had already been evacuated from the ashab, and so they were already empty. And Imam said, let them burn, because burning here will give us protection from this side. And the fact that Imam arranged his army in a particular way. You know this diamond-shaped arrangement. There's a muqaddama, and there's a muakhara, and there's a maymana, and there's a maysara, and then there's a qalb. There's a right flank and a left flank, and there's a front flank, and there is a rear flank. The front flank was the one that was killed in the first wave, massive wave of attack. The right flank was under Zuhair bin Qayn. The left flank was under Habib bin Madahir. The qalb and the heart was under the standard bearer Abbas bin Ali. And the rear, of course, was Imam alayhi salam himself. The army was arranged the same way the Prophet did in the battle of Uhud. وَإِذْ غَدَوْتَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ in Surah Ali Imran, ayah number 120 onwards. وَإِذْ غَدَوْتَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ تُبَوِّئُ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ مَقَاعِدَهُمْ لِلْقِتَالِ. And you're the one who went out early in the morning on the day of the battle of Uhud, and you arranged your army in such a way as to enable them to be strategically placed so that you can engage in your battle successfully. And finally, the motivation of the army. Notice, definitely the companions had been tested. I'm not going into details the process of the testing. There are good comparisons in the Quran. There is a mention of the battle between Talut and Jalut in Surah Baqarah chapter 2. And how Talut tests his followers, and then he filters them out, and only those who are highly disciplined and obedient to the commander, and those who are dedicated to the cause, and those who are devoted to God, these are the ones who remain. So number one, the recruitment. At the recruitment stage, the Imam takes everyone and anyone who's interested. So right from Tan'im, Imam alayhi salam begins the recruiting process. There's a caravan coming from Yemen. It is going to Sham to deliver some goods to Yazid. Imam intercepts, confiscates that caravan. He tells those people, you've got two options. Either you join me and we continue in our opposition, and you have everything provided for you. You will be given weapons, and you'll be given your lodging and boarding, so to speak. Or no, if you decide at this stage not to continue and join me, I will pay you all the costs of all the trouble that you've taken so far from Yemen till Tan'im and Mecca. So he recruited some of them from that stage. In all the stages where he stopped, from Mecca onwards to Kufa and Karbala, he would invite people, join me. For example, the famous person who changed sides, according to one narration. According to another narration, he didn't change sides. He was waiting to join the Imam. Was Zuhair bin Qayn. Zuhair bin Qayn, according to some reports, it said was not an Alawi, he was an Uthmani. He belonged to the opposite side. But Imam convinced him, and he changed sides and came over, just like Hur changed sides. So recruitment process throughout. After recruitment, Imam started filtering. When they came to Zubala, one stage before Karbala, and the Imam receives a report from Kufa, Muslim bin Aqil has been killed. Hani bin Urwa has been killed in Kufa. Abdullah bin Yaqtur has been killed in Kufa. Prominent messengers and commanders which Imam sent have been killed. That Kufa phase is dead now. Now things are getting serious. How many of you are ready to remain? Some withdraw. And the final filtering takes place on the night of Ashura. At that time, nobody runs away, the way they did in Tan'im and the way they did in Zubala. So, the process of filtering. And finally, the process of motivation. I don't know if you watched this program, the documentary Fahrenheit 9/11. How do you rev up and motivate a soldier to go and kill? Does anybody recall? What did they do? Music, right? Music with messages of violence. You move the soldier to be ready to kill, to become a killing machine. You know what the companions of the Imam alayhi salam did to motivate themselves? Umar ibn Sa'd was ready to launch the attack on the Asr of the 9th. Imam alayhi salam asked for respite of one night. What? To sharpen his weapons? No. To engage in ibadah, in salah, in dua, in the recitation of the Quran. One of the most powerful motivators for a person to resist against all evil and to use the last ounce of energy that you have to give it up for the sake of God. How to link yourself up with God. Powerful motivators. And of course, on the day of Ashura, finally, the battle cries and the fact that Imam alayhi salam himself, right till the last moment, he would use all precaution. Look at the place where, I didn't know this, but when I was reading a report and analysis by someone who was analyzing Karbala from a military perspective, he said when he read the narration of Karbala, he found that Imam alayhi salam till the last moments was using military precaution, in the sense that he would look at a place where the enemy is slightly off guard and then attack. He would use all protection against the enemy's attack. They were attacking all out, but of course he was using protection as much as is possible not to get hurt by the swords. There were some companions who were very bold. Abis bin Shabib Shakiri takes off his armor and then he goes to the battlefield. A brave soldier. Kufans were afraid of him. You are afraid of me? I take off my armor. Come face me like a man. That was a different situation. But otherwise, Imam alayhi salam took all military precaution. These are some of the points that some people have tried to analyze and extract from the event. Like I said, the purpose of this program was I will talk less. I'll give you more time to ask questions. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.